Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back. That's right, I am back. Welcome to another edition of the Friday Night Chop Session with Stormybman. This is episode number 64, and we're calling it the top 4 fights recalled by Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. Yeah, we're going to go over some of those fights that he's called for you recently that had the high numbers, meaning that you all were tuning in, trying to figure out what was going down with certain fights. And it's nice to see that the community has come out and given support to these recalls of fights while the current state of boxing is on hiatus as far as live boxing matches. So, you know, we keep trying to bring content that is not only positive but also productive at the same time. Many people have come to boxing late. Many people were late on certain subjects that transpired throughout the most recent history of boxing, and we're keeping it refreshed in your minds, okay, and put it in your spirit, in your heart, and be ready to go forward. Because when boxing returns, you can hold some of these guys accountable for what they're not doing, you know, which is putting on the best matches against the best fighters. So with no further ado, we are coming live to you. We're going to talk this boxing this evening, and I do have my brother Reggie Owens out here with me. He's here tonight. He's going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it, and you guys are going to participate and talk about it too with us. That's what it's all about. We're going to do this thing tonight. We're going to talk some good boxing. So what's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing good, OG, man. How you doing yourself, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing very well. I was excited to get this show going for us this evening, man. And, hey, man, it's what it's all about, man. You know, we out here, we keeping it going. You know what I mean? There may be some people who feel a little bit down and out, but there's no reason, because, you know, we here. You know, we here to do it for them. And I know that you have really been on the grind calling these fights, man. How are you finding that so far? You know, as far as yourself, just doing it in general and everything. What has it done for you? Can you open up the show this evening and please just speak freely what you found since you started going back into the archives and doing this?
Oh, man, I find a lot of classic information, a lot of historic information, and also what I've heard you guys speak on calling the fight, because I follow a lot of the historians in the community. I really follow that. I'm a cat who's always loved what's been vintage, so I'm in tune with vintage stuff, so I like hearing people go back down the machine of time. So I always go back, review over some of these fights, and I was like, you know what, let me give a call on some of this shit and seeing a play-by-play. And then I'll catch moments between, the interactions between coaches and fighters. I found a gym yesterday with what's his name, Nassim Richardson and Shane Mosley in that Margarita fight. Oh, man, that shit had me so amped up. And I had to turn it into a video. Seeing clips of Don King speaking about Bob Arum and things like that. Looking at old legendary promoters from back in the past, legendary boxers who may be sitting ringside, seeing the way they conducted fights back then, where, like I heard you speak on it before, where before a fight started, they'll bring in some legendary fighter just to kind of bring a claim to them so that they're not forgotten, introducing them, then going into the introductions of the fight. Also seeing the way the game was commissioned, where fighters put on the gloves inside the ring, watching 15-round fights, just the way these fighters battle, and then even going back in time and looking at the improvements on style. So catching fights from, what was the earliest fight I've done? Maybe from the late 30s or early 40s, I think I called a fight, and looking at the styles in which they fight and just seeing the improvements on styles, and then reviewing fighters who I may have not appreciated that much or recognized certain gifts and styles, like Bernard Hopkins is somebody who I've really been picking up on lately, and not really looking at his style, because I always thought he just had this weird style. He fought this certain way, but now that I look at it, this dude's style was fucking brilliant. And this is also a style that Andre Ward has adopted, and this is giving him tremendous success in the fight game. Almost like Kobe mimicking Jordan is what I see when I look at Andre Ward and Bernard Hopkins, as their careers kind of mirror one another. Who else? All these classic fights, and just hearing the little moments in there, and also leading into the build up, seeing some of the controversy within the fight game, looking at the way things were scored, what was allowed back then, some of the things that they did right back in the day, some of the things they did wrong, and also looking at some of the things they do right now, some of the things they do wrong. So I like looking at this and contrasting things, and also taking moments back on historic events in the boxing world, and also looking into fighters who may have challenged each other multiple times. I like that. But yeah, that's all I got to open it up.
Yeah, man, and we really appreciate that, because for, like I said, and I can't say it enough, for enough people that they may have heard some fights they may have missed. You know, everybody that didn't have cable, everybody wasn't able to stream and different things like that. So this gives us a chance. It gives a lot of people a chance to catch up and refresh. And if they haven't used that time to study up, hey, that's their fault, you know, because the information is there. And it's kind of hard, admittedly, to go back to, you know, trying to review what was once in the past or whatever, when you have so much things going on live and you're trying to stay on top of what's live. So to optimize your time, and to do that during this particular time with the break in the sport, it's one of those things where, you know, it's the best chance. It's the best chance for people to do that. So that's just a suggestion. That's if you want to be able to stand on your square when you're talking about the sport, you know. So that's how I see it. I want to take a quick moment and acknowledge our guests that have come out there to join us in the chat. We got DB out there. He says, salute, salute. Gigi is out there. It says, salute Stormybman, panel and chat. Sister Denise Wars is out there saying, salute to everyone. DB says, Reggie said, this is where we're partying this evening. Let's rock. And Mara the Machine is out there. He says, what up, Stormy B, man? And what up, chat? Philip Carl Roberts is out there and is saluting as well. And let's see, my brother Drew Titan is out there. He says, yo. Boxing and Barbecue is out there. He says, what's up, Stormy and Reggie? And he's saying, what's up to Drew and DB? DB also says that Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, seeing the bigotry of Merchant and Lampley way back then. Yeah, man. It's an old school thing, but they bringing it right up in the modern day with a lot of other mess out there. Boxing and Barbecue is saluting Denise Wards. Reggie's pulling double duty out there. And DB says, also seeing some of the ATGs deceased now. Absolutely. We have, in the past 10 years, lost a few of our fighters who were known in most recent memory to provide some classic matches for us. But with that being said, you know, Reggie, going into the subject of what we're dealing with this evening, I know that CB Sports TV was invited to be on here with us this evening, and he may be joining us a little bit later. I wanted to tell you that I picked 4 fights out of what you have called most recently, and I picked them because of the high number of views, you know, with your live broadcast and everything. And the 4 fights happen to be what we can consider classics. You know, it's the first being the first fight between Leonard and Duran, okay? And the second fight would be Leonard and Hagler. The third fight is Tyson and Holyfield. And then the fourth fight, believe it or not, is Mayweather versus Castillo. So those four fights we'll be able to talk about this evening on the show. And we can go through some highlights of them and whatnot. And most of all, just give you a chance to recollect what it was like when you were calling it, and the type of the type of reaction you were getting from your listening audience when you was reading through the chats and everything, their comments on, because a lot of people, they don't want to admit that they hadn't seen certain things completely and in its entirety, and that's nothing to shame oneself for. But what is more proving is the fact that the people came and wanted to see for themselves and listen to someone call the action. That's one of the most gratifying things that I take out of the experience, because, I've been to many of your calls, and it's like, I'm living again, because I've seen quite a few fights myself, but living vicariously through your calls and the fans' reaction to it, and the community's reaction to your calls and everything. And it's like a big old fight party on the internet, so it's been really pleasurable like that. So, I mean, haven't you found that to be the same?
Oh, hell yeah, man. And like you were saying, I'm not ashamed to admit when I haven't seen anything. And a lot of these fights I hadn't seen. So it adds to the excitement. Because even when I put a fight together, I don't fully watch the fight. It's the fights I edit, I'll go through cutting out certain parts in between rounds. If there's nothing spoken between the teams, I'll cut that out. But I'll go on to the next round to cutting out. Because even if I watch something, it doesn't spoil it for me. So I can watch a fight, and when I enjoy it, it's going to be like it's the first time to me, because the more I watch something, the more you identify things. So, yeah, most definitely. And a lot of these fights I haven't seen. I may know the results, but that doesn't change it, because there's moments in where things happen. There's moments when things change. And sometimes the fighter that's defeated may have put up a great fight. So sometimes the comeback is some of the most exhilarating shit you can see. And I live it out like it's some live shit. That's the way I view it. I enjoy a good ass fight, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So I've done something a little different here with the studio setup and everything. I hope people like it. If they don't like it, Stormy trying. You know me, I'm always doing some different things. So out of the four fights that we picked, we're going to look at some clips or whatnot, but I wanted to ask you which ones you like to lead off with, because, we're pulling this from, your calls. So whether you could go from most exciting to least exciting to most exciting or whatever, but out of the four, we're going to talk a little bit on each one. So which one would you like to kick off with?
Wait, give me those fours once again. Let me get those fours.
Yeah, because I know you've called so many. So yeah. The four I have that I put down for tonight for us to talk about are Leonard Duran 1, Leonard Hagler 1, Tyson Holyfield 1, and Mayweather Castillo 1.
Let's go with Leonard Duran 1.
Okay, Leonard Duran 1. So what we're going to do is there will be some audio, and forgive it if you see a little bit of a commercial or whatever in there, but we do have these fights to bring to the people, and we're going to talk about them and give a little bit of, we let people see some of that action and everything, and we're going to talk about them. But the most thing I wanted to say about this is just another way of us as a community doing things and bringing ourselves together for boxing, because that's why we out here. We out here talking about the sport and being about the sport. So, this was kind of a little something that I had came up with. So with that being said, let's kind of check this out. That's that commercial I was telling you. Sometimes it might be a commercial interlude there, but I'll try to cut those commercials short so we can get straight to the action.
He's slowly cutting. You see that? Oh, he took a hard left hook, but he hit him back. How about that cooking? Thick with the right hand and got him with the left hook. They could catch each other. Duran goes to the body, but he's fine. Leonard's fast hands are something to see. Duran getting under them. Oh, the right hand hurt Leonard again. Leonard Duran can punch with. Why would they want Leonard to take him inside? Look on the turn. Leonard in trouble again. Look at Duran.
It's a couple of minutes of clips from the fight, but you can feel free to chime in.
Never punch himself out.
Man, that pressure from Duran was something else, man. He didn't give Leonard any time to breathe, and I think it was something new, man. Like it was a new environment for Leonard, facing somebody with such a notorious reputation as this dude.
He's also pounding to Duran.
In this one, Sugar Ray being very young and just seeing this cat up all over, man. So Sugar Ray had to learn on the fly and adjust on the fly. And he was a quick and adaptable student, but early in this fight, he was just being swarmed by this cat Duran. And based on how I scored, after about 4 or 5 rounds is where Leonard began to figure things out, selling the fight down a little bit, and he began to kind of swing the momentum his way and taking a few rounds on my card. And then kind of towards the latter stage, it was a 15-round fight. So round about 10 all the way to 15 is where the fight kind of goes back and forth type of action. And Duran begins to slow down his pace as well. It was a great fight, but it was a fight that it was a lot for Sugar Ray to handle, a lot for him to learn. And I think just based on that early work from Duran, putting that pressure on him, and Sugar Ray having to kind of make adjustments, but never really being able to fight. He had to kind of fight a different style, and that was an in-close type style. But it was a great experience, man. I enjoyed it. And the other thing is that Duran being known for his punching ability, his power, he never really hurt Leonard but once, and I believe that was in that 3rd round. Was the only time Leonard was shaken by anything hit by Duran. But he did a great job. I like the way he controlled the arms on the inside. He did some real effective things, locking Duran up, and that just shows a great experience. I forget who he's trained by, but whoever Leonard was being taught by, they taught him well, as he knew what to do to kind of suppress a little bit that offense that Duran was coming in. Even though Duran was coming in pressuring, Duran really wasn't getting off too much work based on Leonard being able to clinch and being able to control those arms and hold him properly inside that phone booth. But yeah, it was an exciting and excellent fight as well.
Yeah, one thing that can't be denied is that Duran, his right hand was awesome. He could throw it from many different angles. He knew how to hide it, and he was very successful at catching Leonard with that right hand over and over again.
But Duran always relentless and back in the aggressor and pushing and pulling. Throwing punches wherever they have. Good right hand landed on Duran. A good right hand landed, and now they're both exchanging furious volleys. In the other rounds, he slowed down. Oh, Leonard beating a tattoo, but Duran stays on top of him. And then Leonard fight back, and Duran reaches into this crowd.
Did you see him turn him around?
Yeah, I'm repeating it.
Leonard punched himself out. Duran is starting to come back at him. I've never seen Leonard coming back.
Man, these guys were going at it.
Using the left.
the other thing that I like looking back at this time period is the referees allow these guys to fight.
Yes.
It wasn't the referee making it all about themselves. They let these dudes work their way up out of situations. They stepped at moments where nothing was happening. But they never warned about deducting points for you holding too much and all this stuff. Like,
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Just like the thrill of vanilla.
Man, was something, man.
Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray exchanging furious punches. Here comes Duran. Leonard taking the punches, has to back up. And now Leonard trying to come back. But he takes the punishment as he's coming up. Has been hurt.
And it's crazy to see the pace of this fight and knowing this shit is 15 rounds is another crazy feat for me, man. That shit is crazy as hell.
I know, right? For anyone who doubted that Ray Leonard could fight, he showed it in this fight. It was this fight that we, on the three wise men of boxing, we all agreed, had Leonard never had this fight with Duran, he would not have beaten Tommy Hearns.
A war. 24 seconds remaining in the 14th round.
Oh, and that's the other thing, because one of the brothers in the chat was saying, Bruce Goes was saying he watched this on closed circuit theater. So being that they didn't have pay-per-view and all that stuff, how would you watch a fight knowing that this event is taking place this day? Did you just go to, you had to go to a theater, is that correct?
Yeah, or some type of arena where they would put a screen up.
This one will go all the way, and we're going to have a decision. And then Leonard,
it was like basically a satellite type deal.
Leonard bombing away, and Duran doesn't have.
And do you remember any of the pricing that you would pay to go in, something like that?
I can't believe it.
Do I remember what now?
Duran.
How much they were charging you guys to go inside and watch something like that?
Something like that. The prices, I don't recall the prices. Kurt Sugar might be able to. Because his memory is far greater than mine. Because I was a boy, when this fight came out. And but damn, my dad went to see it. I didn't go with him. But yeah, back then, it might have been, I don't know. I can't even speculate. I really can't. Forgive me for that, but my memory is not long on that part of it. So. But what a fight, man. I mean, this was basically 15 rounds of brawling. And they did call it the Brawl in Montreal because they had it up in Canada. And the fight was very competitive. You could even argue that Leonard won the fight. Duran got the decision, but Leonard wasn't no punk. He fought his behind off in this fight. And you could see that he never really gave ground. He fought back. But Duran was just relentless. He was like a Tasmanian devil on that night. He was all in Leonard's grill. He had a point to prove. He was out there trying to show that he was as good as these guys from America, whatever, that, was supposed to have some luster on him. And Leonard was the golden egg at that time. But let's hear you cook more on it, Reggie, about your experience in calling that particular fight, man. What a damn classic. If you guys out there in the chat haven't had a chance to treat yourself to reviewing the Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran first fight, please go back and watch it. These are the type of fights, like I said, when we're critical of the guys of today, this is why. When we're talking about, if somebody want to say they the best or whatever, that's fine to talk about it and everything. But until you get in the ring and prove it against your contemporaries, dude, that is ridiculous. You have to prove it. We can't talk about on paper. Not when you guys are alive and thriving in your primes and stuff. So Reggie, just tell us some more about your experience in calling that particular fight.
Man, just from hearing so much about it, and that being matter of fact, the day I called it was my first time actually watching the full fight. Always hearing about it, my thing was just listening, because I always hung, like I always say repeatedly, I always hung around older folks and always hearing them speak about these kind of fights, and then getting on here, finding you guys, hearing you speak about it, but never watching the fight in its entirety. So to sit back and watch it was a new experience. But me hearing about the bravado of fucking Duran, hearing about his mean streak, how dangerous of a fighter he was, a lot of the pictures being painted of Sugar Ray being like he's more of a softer type guy who doesn't want to get hit. That's the picture I have at him. He's a clean type fighter, a fighter that will avoid confrontation. And from what I'm thinking that I was going to see watching this fight for the first time was Duran just really putting a beating on Sugar Ray for 15 rounds. When I went into watching this fight and watching the early rounds, I was thinking that's probably what was going to happen, because the way Duran came right at this guy and was keeping up this pace for the first 4 or 5 rounds, which were clear-sided, dominant rounds by Duran, but can't say dominant, but aggressive rounds for Duran. But to see Sugar Ray staying there, hold his own, getting here, not really be hurt by this guy, and also give it back, because Sugar Ray got on some great combinations, even like shown in that one clip. He found great moments of tying this guy in the clinch, releases the clinch real quick, fire for a quick combination, ties him back up. Go back in the clinch, tying him up. Duran trying to fire off shots. Sugar Ray blocking at the arms. I don't know, I keep almost calling Sugar Ray Ali. Guess because of how clean his styles are or some shit. But just watching his ability to kind of control things when he could at the moment. But Duran was just such a vicious guy. It was some things you weren't going to be able to stop. Some things were going to get through. But Sugar Ray did a great thing of absorbing things when he gets hit with those punches, those big punches, the way he was able to absorb them. Kind of rolling with the punch, in the moment of impact, kind of taking a little bit of steam up off those punches by what he does to absorb the punches. But his work was good. He had very good work in his tough, rugged, inside type of fight where he couldn't get away from Duran. Duran was on his ass. But how you spoke about this was a fight that could have went either way, and it could have. My scorecard was only had Duran win the fight by 1 round. And that's how close of a fight it could have been.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And did you see the condition of both fighters? They were in magnificent shape, man, for the volume of punches that they were throwing. And this was at a time when they weren't necessarily counting with punch stat, to keep track of all the punches thrown per round. But both men were, and combinations, not loading up with like a big shot, just trying to end everything with a big shot, but firing in 2s, 3s, and 4s, at a time. And like I said, Duran was so good with his upper body movement, his defense was his offense, because as you threw shots at him, he would give these defensive moves, whether it's turning the shoulder, turning the head, it's slipping, bobbing, weaving, and things like that, and countering off of that. He would put himself in position to punch you back. And as I said earlier in the show about he hiding that right hand, he could punch and you wouldn't see the right hand. Like we're watching outside the ring, you say he's hitting him with that right hand. But when you're in there with him, it's about timing. And he could hide that right hand. And when he fired it, he wouldn't fire it unless he knew he could hit something. That was another thing about Duran. He would fire that right hand when he knew he could land somewhere. He didn't care if he hit you on the shoulder, in your neck, in your rib cage. He was going to make certain that the punch landed somewhere. And that was something that a lot of people didn't pay attention to. But another reason why he was able to beat Davey Moore so bad, it's like he broke that man down. But Leonard had enough of an offense that had to be respected that Duran did have to pay attention defensively even more with Leonard, plus his hand speed. But Leonard had that grit, man. That one moment during the highlight where he had Leonard up against the ropes and Leonard spent him around, that was awesome, man. That was some good stuff.
Hey, the other thing about Durant is just how much of it was just like his FU type mentality. Because after the fight, I think it was Leonard trying to walk over and congratulate. He's like almost waved Leonard off like FU. Like he just didn't give a shit about nobody, man. That dude was crazy, man.
All right. Hey, shout out to Kasim Baker who just subscribed to the channel. I guess I have to thank you for that, Reggie, because Kasim saw those highlights possibly, and he said, hey, I'm going to subscribe here. But don't forget to go subscribe to Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, Kasim. But appreciate your subscription, bro. Yeah.
Bring your buddies over, man. All y'all keep subscribing. Bring it over to the OG channel.
That's right, man. We talk some good boxing, we show some good boxing, and recall it all, man. And I think Kurt Sugar said in the chat that those tickets back then, shout out to Kurt Sugar, man. Reggie, he said it cost $20, I think, for those tickets, for those closed circuit.
Oh, so that was a nice penny back then, huh?
Well, yeah, but you also have to remember that was 1980, I think. So it's like the value of $1 was a lot different then, too, you know. So $20 was possibly like $50 or a little bit more back then. You know what I'm saying? The value of
right.
Because we were paying, I think, gas, the oil crisis in 1979, I think it was. The gas prices had gone up to well over $1, but we were paying like 45 cents on the gallon for gas and stuff like that. It was like, man, you know, inflation, bro. You know, it was totally different back then, you know.
And see, that's what I like about history, man, is just those type of moments you add into it. And a lot of people skip over those things that affected society when it comes to history, such as the oil crisis that you spoke of, and it also cost the president back then his presidency. So that's the other thing I like about going back in history and stuff.
Yeah, shortly before Reagan got in office, replacing Carter, man, it was like I think the biggest thing was like when they had a rollback on gas prices, because gas had went well over $1. And they had rolled the prices back to like, it was early in the Reagan administration. They rolled it back to like 60 cents a gallon. And people were like, yeah, you know, it was like, you know, and 60 cents was still a little higher than what it used to be. But it was like, you know, as long as it wasn't $1, you know what I'm saying? And I can remember when I was in high school, I had a buddy, he had got a hold of a piece of a car. It was like one of those Chrysler Monarch. It was like a 1977 or something. It was a big old tank, you know. And we would go to the gas station riding around in that bad boy. And he was like, man, I only got 80 cents. What you guys got? You know, we was talking about putting the money in the tank so we could go cruising around in this car, man. I remember that, bro. That was something else, man. But that's like you said, just to take us back to what it was like during that time and the money that you spending. Because, like, don't forget, like, even when I've done the Kung Fu film focuses and I talk about the theaters where we used to go see the films, we could go and see, you know, 3 movies for 75 cents, you know. Then it went up to $1.25. Then it came in like $1.50. You know, it's like inflation. But when it was on the lower end of the cost, that was pretty smooth back then, bro.
Right. Hey, you know, it be affecting me because, like I say, I've been around old cats all my life, and listen to them tell stories. Cause I used to be a kid and I still to this day a candy junkie, and listen to them speak about paying for like Snickers and Milky Ways and all that other candy. Like, what was it, 10 cents? A movie being like a nickel or a quarter, depending on what era they come in. And then when we get to the movies, matter of fact, when I get up of my age or as a teen or whatnot, movies still being in the realm of like believe we go see a movie for like $3 or $5. And then now movies are up to $15, and that shit just pushes me away. Like, I'm not spending that kind of money on this crap. And then even with my candy that I used to purchase for like Skittles, I used to pay like 50 cents off the ice cream truck for a bag of Skittles. This same candy has the bags are much smaller.
Yeah.
And the prices are like $1.25 for. I'm like, I ain't touching this crap. Like, but I think back to what the older folks used to speak about, a nickel or a penny for candy. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it used to. You used to go far in with change. That's why it's like, if you run into an old person today, I'm talking about when I say old, they might be in their 90s or something, right? If they call themselves giving you a tip or something, they might hand you 2 quarters, you know, and you in your mind like, what the hell I'm gonna do with this? But dude, back in their day, 2 quarters went a long way, bro. You could have a full bag of snacks with 2 quarters. But man, today, that won't hardly do nothing for you. You know what I'm saying? But it's just the difference in the times. And that's one of the things, like when we could do these recollections and think about all of that, man, it's like, wow. And then to think that a guy got $1 million purse like Sugar Ray Leonard, you know he was in the money. You know what I'm saying? So,
hell yeah.
With the money, the cost of living being different, it's like, wow. So, yeah, that's one of the things to think about, bro. It's one of the things. So, sure is, man. So, you know, with that being said, you want to move on to the next pick? What you got? What you want to talk about next?
Holyfield Tyson.
Okay. So we'll roll with the Holyfield Tyson clips and let everybody recall this. And again, if you want to comment on it while we're looking at some of the action, no problem.
Oh yes, man. Going into this one, man, I was a little bit surprised to see. I've seen it back in the day, and I was kind of a guy who was against Mike Tyson. I remember, matter of fact, when the build-up was going into this fight, and it was coming out something I remember about Holyfield having a heart issue. And, you know, this is still around the time everybody thinking Tyson is still this invincible force, even with the loss of to Buster Douglas. People still view Tyson as an indestructible fighter out there. They thought it was a fluke night. But going into the build-up, when they finally announced it, it was something come out with Holyfield's medical conditions, I believe, heart. Everybody just going on Tyson. I think I was in the ninth grade back then, and everybody hyping it up about Tyson gonna do this. So I'm worried for Holyfield, because like I said, I wasn't a Tyson fan back then, because everybody talking about Tyson, the baddest guy in the world. I thought it was cats in my neighborhood who I thought can whoop Tyson ass, but Tyson probably would have knocked their ass out too. But that's the reason I wasn't a Tyson fan. But so I'm looking at Holyfield can be the guy to bring it to Tyson. Holyfield being known as the real deal, seeing what he did to the guy who knocked Tyson off his square. So watching this fight in review, the other good thing that came out of it, like looking back on the history, is the fact that going into this fight early on, they stated that a casino had Tyson as a 21 favorite over Holyfield early on. But as the fight neared, I think they said they brought it down to some realistic figure of like 7-1 odds or something like that. But if whoever hit that moment of them putting Holyfield as a 25-1 underdog, they made out like a fat rat. Now going into this fight, man, I thought Holyfield will at least try to box this guy. That's what I thought it would have been. Holyfield trying to stay on the outside with Tyson, trying to maintain a little bit of range, use a little bit of the jab just to break this guy down. Holyfield went straight to Tyson ass, and I was shocked. And I think Mike Tyson was shocked, because early on, I don't even think it took 2 rounds for Tyson to have that expression on his face, like, what the hell is this dude doing in here with me like this? What is he doing on the outside? Pushing me around and shit. Punching me, uppercutting me. The counters are something effective. Those counters, I think, caused Tyson to be real hesitant. Tyson was very reluctant to throw punches at moments in his fight. And I think it was a moment. No, I think Holyfield, or I think Tyson may have hurt Holyfield. He buzzed him. Tyson did not step in there to go for the kill. He was that much afraid of getting caught with something that he let Holyfield off the hook from even trying to go in and see if he can do something with the moment. He let him off the hook. He was afraid to go in there. Holyfield beat him at every moment in this fight. And I really didn't have Tyson winning but one round in this fight. But when we see my card, he only had Holyfield winning one round in this fight. And that's just how dominant Holyfield was in this fight. Almost doing, well, I can't even compare it to what Ray did with Duran. But Holyfield just boxed beautifully, staying on the inside, the work to the body, the hooks, the uppercuts, were everything. And it left Tyson in there doubting himself, trying to guess what to do. And even hearing the instructions from the corner, they couldn't figure out what the hell to do. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to you.
Yeah, when he dropped Tyson with that uppercut to the breadbasket, man, I was like, damn! And one of the things you can say is that when the crowd started chanting Holyfield, Holyfield, you could see some of the wind go out of Tyson because the crowd was cheering against him. So it was like he was mentally defeated then by that point.
Oh yeah, that broke his spirit most definitely. Because I was shocked to even hear the crowd going against Mike Tyson and now cheering on Holyfield in the fashion that they did. That was a shock for me. Even I believe when I was calling the fight and hearing that, I was shocked to hear that. I thought Tyson was that big of a figure back then.
Yeah, and you know something? I'll tell you, this was really interesting because Evander was fighting him, but he was fighting him in a smart manner. It was like he was countering his shots, he was giving him angles, and he was like, he wasn't giving Tyson time to think. And that was the difference, where Tyson was always able to dictate the pace against other fighters. Evander took all of that away from him.
Yeah, it was just a brilliant display of boxing, man. And like you say, even the moment when he caught Tyson with that left hook, it was the move. He anticipated the punch coming from Tyson. He rolled and deflected that one, and as soon as he comes back to getting out of the defensive posture, he's right back in offense throwing something, because he knew where Tyson was going to be open with that punch he threw out there. So it's just Tyson. I mean, Holyfield's mind was just so fast. Any counterpuncher to me just has great vision inside of a ring. He anticipates, so he reads his opponent very well, and it showed that with Holyfield. His game plan, like I heard somebody, I think it was Kurt was in the chat or something. He was like, it was bullying the bully. And that's exactly what he did. He pushed Tyson around. He walked Tyson back with ease. It was almost like Tyson didn't even resist it after a while. It was like he just submitted to Holyfield is basically what he did until it was over with. And then that final volley he put on there, oh man, that was some amazing shit. But I can also recall watching this fight at my aunt's house and seeing how deflated everybody was in that house. Me, I was happy, but I went outside to celebrate that shit.
Yeah, you didn't want to get beat up in the house. Everybody's boy Mike Tyson got his ass whooped. You didn't want to be celebrating that.
Hey, they do all the cooking. They didn't do Tyson fights is like some Thanksgiving event. I used to think that shit was a holiday. They be cooking, making drinks and shit, and 100 people at the house. Like, so I knew to take my ass outside.
Yeah, man. What a exciting display of being a warrior that Holyfield showed in that fight. And maybe had he not had the trilogy with Bo, that could have gone a different way. But Holyfield was used to being roughed up and stuff like that, because the fights with Bo were not a cakewalk. You know, Bo was 6'5" and 240, 250 pounds, hitting Holyfield upside his head. You know what I'm saying? And so Holyfield got adjusted to the heavyweight division with his introductory to George Foreman and Riddick Bowe. So by the time he did face Tyson, what, 5'9", 5'10" at the most, with those little lifts and those little black shoes? Holyfield's looking at Tyson like, psh, man, this ain't nothing, you know? And if you look closely, the fight ended almost the same way that his fight with Burt Cooper ended. When Holyfield took it to another level against Burt Cooper with those uppercuts, he unleashed a barrage of them against him, and it started turning up his offense. Burt Cooper turned to run. Tyson did the same exact thing in that 10th round, where Holyfield turned up the heat on him. Because, you know, Tyson, you know, when he got fatigued, what he would start doing was loading up. He wasn't putting his punches together anymore. So Holyfield was throwing 3, 4, 5 to his 1, 2. You know what I mean? Because that's what Tyson would do. He'd load up 1, 2 and throw it as hard as he could. And Holyfield is countering that with 3, 4, 5, 6 shots. And he was able to take Tyson out based on that. And that was something that another thing that people overlooked with Tyson being a faded fighter, not in this fight, but as his career still began to go beyond this point. People remember him knocking people out, and they always remember the last punch that would land. And they look at it as, oh, if Tyson hits you, he'll knock you out. But Tyson was a volume puncher at his best. Tyson would throw punches in succession, and it's the last couple of shots that would get a guy. People were always expecting him to get somebody and blast them, you know, after post-prison, you know, expecting him to blast people with a big shot, but that's not who he was. George Foreman was that guy, but not Tyson. Tyson always threw combination, boop, 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 and the guy go. Well, when you're loading up with 1 and 2, a guy can brace himself for that. You know what I mean? Even if it does land, if you see it coming, he can brace himself. It's not the same effect as catching guys with a barrage of shots. Now, there was a point in one of the rounds, I think it was the 5th round or the 7th round, that he hit Holyfield with his patented combination. That right to the body and then followed with the uppercut, the right uppercut. And Holyfield, who was leaning in, he took that shot full, and it hurt him. And he backed up away from Tyson, but Tyson didn't go in throwing combinations. He was looking to load up with another big shot. He gave Evander a chance to recover, and Evander kept fighting. His moment had left. And that was at that point when Holyfield started fighting back, and the crowd started yelling, Holyfield, Holyfield. And like I said, the wind just went out of his sails at that point. But he should have maintained. And I believe if he still had like someone like Kevin Rooney, they would have stressed for him to put his punches together against Evander, because you're not going to knock Evander out with a single shot. You're not. And you have to put the shots together. But that was an exciting fight, man. So what was it like on the night that you called it? How was your chat and everything responding to this classic? Because it is a classic now.
Oh, man, we was having fun with it, man. Everyone enjoyed it. But some people was like, oh, man, they didn't want to see Tyson go out like that. Because, you know, Tyson is an iconic dude at this in heavyweight boxing period. That's why his name is still kind of relevant to this day as he talks about a comeback. But a lot of people are like, you know, having to relive it and see what happened. But all in all, it was a great display of boxing and how you match styles against styles and even add things to your style. And like you said, Tyson being well known for his combinations, great head movement, Holyfield took all that shit away. As what they expected from Holyfield, where they thought they can game plan against Holyfield or whatnot, he just couldn't do it. And he couldn't make any adjustments against Holyfield. There was no plan B for Tyson. There was only plan A, which was done at the ding of the bell. But yeah, we were having a good time, man. Everybody was enjoying it and seeing what Holyfield was doing to Holyfield, the way in which he did it. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And just looking back on Holyfield, looking at both of these fighters, but Holyfield was a very special fighter, being of where he reigned. You don't see that with none of these heavyweights. They just reign in one division. This guy reigns as a cruiserweight, comes in the heavyweight division, fights not just no Usyk type layered opponents. Holyfield went in there straight with a mission coming into the heavyweight division, and he fought top names, and he went against some big juggernauts in the heavyweight division, and he brought it to him. And being a much smaller guy, like you're speaking with the 3 fights he had against Riddick Bowe, and getting in there and going to war with Bowe, blow for blow. They went at it. Never seen nothing like that. I just think Holyfield got inspired when he took a punch because he always fought his way back. As a kid, that's what I always thought about Holyfield. So I always liked the Holyfield on besides Lennox Lewis being my favorite fighter, I've always liked the Holyfield as well.
Yeah, going to the chat for a quick moment. Boxing and Barbecue, salute Boxing and Barbecue. He says Holyfield was giving Tyson hell. And Drew Titan says, I was the only kid around my way that was convinced that Evander would whoop Mike's ass since he was at cruiserweight. Bruce Gold says, we need to go out to eat before a big fight. We used to go out to eat before a big fight. Sorry. He said it was an event. Yes, sir. And Drew Titan says, Evander timed Tyson perfectly by watching his feet. Philip Carl Roberts says, Tyson and his platform boxing shoes. Yep. He said, I still give him major respect because of his height. Not many succeed as heavyweight being that height. He was undisputed at one time. Yeah, he did have those little black shoes. They had a little lift in them to give him a little bit more height. And it was amazing he was able to fight in those bad boys because they were not flat. If you looked at Tyson's shoes, they had lifts in them and his feet were not flat. So it's amazing that people didn't take advantage of that because he was basically walking on platform shoes as Philip Carl Roberts described them. And, you know, over the years, I guess it didn't really matter. But if you go back very early in his career, before he became well known, he did fight a few fights with flat shoes. But then somebody, a custom designer or something, gave him that idea of using those lifts in those little black shoes. And he used to come out, they probably had an inch or so on them, maybe an inch and a half. But he fought in them. And he was able to get around in that ring with them, which was interesting. Lawrence Williams is out there. Salute, Ron. Lawrence, he says, Burt Cooper was Holyfield's prep for Tyson in 91 because Tyson had legal issues. Yeah. Bruce Gold says, Burt looked like a champ for a round or two. Talking about against Mike Tyson, against Holyfield. Excuse me. Ramsey Sutton III says, plus Mike got you with the looping punches for the most part. Yeah, and great observation, Ramsey Sutton III, because I noticed that when I saw the fight live, that Mike, when he fought Holyfield, a lot of his punches weren't going to land because he was throwing them too short. He was looping his shots. And he even said in a post-fight interview that when I was trying to hit him, my shots were short and he was hitting me solid. You know, because Mike always threw looping and hooking shots. He didn't throw a lot of straight shots where you get extension. And even when guys were evading him, moving out of the way, he could catch you with looping rights and lefts because his hands were fast. And at one time, his feet were very fast. So people couldn't get away from him. But by the time he fought Holyfield, they were more paired up. And that's not to say Holyfield wouldn't have beat him earlier. I think Holyfield still had a lot more intestinal fight in him than Mike might have had. But it would have been great to see them when they were originally supposed to fight, though. That would have been interesting. Let's see. Ramsey Sutton III is saluting Drew, and then he says, man, I felt like my favorite dog died when Tyson got whooped. And DB says that boxing conversations with Reggie Owens, it hurt back in the day, but now it was a pleasure to see Evander dominate. it was a pleasure to see it back in the day too. Bruce Gold says, how many belts were on the line in that fight? Mike Tyson's WBA belt that he won in a fight where Bruce Seldon laid down to hand it to him. Here you go. And that's what happened. He brought the WBA title into that fight, and Holyfield took it from him. And Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens is in the chat, pulling double duty. He says, at DB, back in the day, I enjoyed that shit. I went in the backyard to laugh about that shit because my aunt's whole house was pissed. And DB says, Mike was the man back then before he started shucking and driving. No, he started shucking and driving a lot sooner than that. You need to go check your history out, man. But yeah, man, Reggie, you got some more on that?
No, that's all I got on that one. But except for the what boxing was like, black fight fans were super into the sport, dedicated to the sport. Don King paid attention to this black audience. Matter of fact, Don King paid attention to all racial groups within the boxing game, and black fan bases. They were so in tune to it. Like we make the sport, we make the experience of boxing much greater when we're into it and when we're being catered to it with fights like this. But just to think that you putting on a goddamn festive type party, and it wasn't just with my family. I knew many families that cook for a Mike Tyson fight, and that's just the great promotional abilities of a Don King. The way they build up these fighters, they did a great job of creating these fighters into the great figures that they became, rather than having punks like Jim Lampley and them sit there and try to tear them down and break them apart. There was some type of awe around these type of fighters, and it was just great moments. Even if I wasn't a Tyson fan, I still respected him. That's the one thing. I ain't never been a hater or nobody, but I respected him. I just always want to see other people beat him. But it was just amazing moments, because it was like you'll have a bunch of your cousins who you ain't seen in a long time over at the house, family celebrating like it's some damn holiday or something. But those are cool moments back then.
Yeah, they were. I used to have buddies over from the gym, and we would all be watching the fights, man. Guys betting on the fights and stuff like that. Those were the days, man. I had a lot of fun from partners from the gym and everything back then. It was always great to watch the fights. I remember a good friend of mine who's a professional fighter. He was in town during that weekend, and when he found out that I was like watching the fight, he was like, man, can I come over and watch it? I was like, man, come on over through. It's like everybody from the gym gonna be over. So we had a fight party. It was great, man. But Kurt Anderson is out there in the chat. He says when Mike threw his right hand, he would be off balance. Holyfield would come back with his own right hand. And he says Tyson could never beat Holyfield. Yeah, it's unfortunate what happened in the second fight, but that's not even worth mentioning right now, outside of Evander not coming out of that with his normal look anymore. But yeah, Reggie, you could go ahead and lead us into the next one you want us to cover. What's the next fight?
All right, and I wanted to say something about that ear biting thing.
Yeah,
it looked like moments after rewatching this fight that Tyson had in his mind that he was gonna bite fucking Holyfield. There was moments in that clip several times where he's gonna bite Holyfield.
You saw that, because I saw that too, but I never talked about it. There was a point where they were in close, and you know how you when you're in close with somebody and the guy's head is on your shoulder like this and y'all tussling for position. Tyson had his mouthpiece, that black mouthpiece he had, and he looked like he thought about it in the first fight. He sure did, and it wasn't just once. And did you notice him running into Holyfield, trying to cause an intentional headbutt? Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, most definite. Because Holyfield fought a clean fight. He wasn't in there running with his board.
He did, and it was Tyson who led the charge especially off the second fight, that said, Holyfield was a dirty fighter with the headbutts. No, Holyfield always explained he'd try to beat a guy to a position, but he wasn't just intentionally ramming his head into people. Tyson intentionally rammed his head into Holyfield several times in the first fight. One time where he did it, and then the ref called time, and he was looking like he wanted to quit. And that was in the first fight. But he absolutely initiated the headbutt himself.
Yeah, he was trying to get any way out that fight, man, because it was embarrassing, man. He was trying any way to get out. But yeah, I did observe him several times thinking about doing that bite. That's why when it goes into that, knowing what happened in the rematch, I'm looking like he was thinking about doing that shit right here. Like,
yep, absolutely. And let's see what else we got. A couple more comments. Philip Carl Roberts says Mike Tyson was massive all around the world. It's probably why Tyson was the favorite. 30 plus fights in 2 to 3 years, and most, if not all, wins by KO made him a massive name worldwide. Bruce Gold says all the supplies and ready to rumble. Talking about fight night and getting the food together. Curtis Anderson says when Tyson fought, the pizza shops ran out of pizza. Philip Carl Roberts says comfort eating. Bruce Gold says Holyfield frustrated Tyson with his educated head. DB says Mike was already planning to use that as his bailout. Yeah, biting. And Bruce Gold says, you know that, Curtis Anderson? And Drew Titan says, I'd like to make a request. Tua versus Ike Abiabuchi, please. So, hey, Reggie, that's Drew Titan telling you, he's saying put that together, that David Tua Ike Abiabuchi fight. Get ready to call that one.
Oh yeah, it's already on my list. It's already on there.
Okay, cool. See, you got people putting in the requests now, man, because they love reliving, these great and classic fights, man. And some of the guys of today, I'm just going to take a moment and say this, and I'll get off of it. They should be ashamed of themselves and embarrassed because they want to be popular from social media, but they don't want to be popular for being professional fighters. But you're in a sport where that's the most respect a man can garner in that ring. Do you know professional fighters never go hungry, man? When they did what they did in the ring, somebody's always willing to buy you a beer or buy you a meal or something for being a guy who can handle himself. That's one thing about our society that nobody likes to talk about. But a man who can handle himself with these, he gets respect everywhere he go. And if the reputation is there, that's even more. So it's like, I don't know what these guys today are doing, man. Their strength is being social media socialites, but we're not seeing that pay dividends in the ring. And that's not everybody of today, but it's a huge portion of the professional fighters of today. They've got it twisted, man. Big time.
You goddamn right, man. And what's sad? And it's like the thing I like doing about this, and I didn't realize I called so many damn fights. Because I think before you asked me how many fights I've done, and I was like, I did like 20-something fights. When I went back to count, I'm getting close to 60. I think I'm at 57 fights in my last one that I did since the start and stuff. But
that's great stuff, man. That's great, though.
Yeah, and so many names are being thrown out that I've never heard of. I go back and watch, learn about these fighters. Even some, modern classic fights that I didn't get to watch. Like even a Margarita one. Was that Margarita? No. It was, what fight I called? A few days ago, it was Trinidad versus, I believe, Hopkins, which was a few weeks after September 11th. I never watched that fight before because I was in the military during that time period.
Right.
There was so much going on that my mind wasn't even on boxing. And so I missed that fight. So being able to watch that fight, 2 days ago. It brought back something, but also coming back to like I hear all like brothers throw names out. It opens the door for me to discovering new things with fighters, because the one thing that bugged me, and I kind of put that on myself, is when I went down to the Mayweather gym, and it was I went to go watch Badu when he's getting ready for what's that cat Marcus Brown and stuff. So when I go to the gym, because I'm cool with Lou Duval, he was telling me like he's like, man, you know who this is? I'm like, no, it was Cornelius Boza Edwards.
Wow.
And he runs the gym. I had no idea who he was. But I was like, I got to study who this guy is, because I need to know about him. And then I did the fight with him and Bobby Chacon. I don't ever remember Bobby Chacon. And then I watched these fights, and now recently I've been starting to hear Bobby Chacon's name come up. Then I heard when Jack Reese was on Fred's show, he was speaking about, he brought the name up and was talking about his daughter. I hear D-Style and them speak about Bobby Chacon a lot. And these are guys I never heard of, but they've had such an impact on the sport. It's like, how can this shit die? Like, how can they be forgotten? I'm like, that's why I enjoy that I start doing that shit. And I started from listening to y'all. I wanted to see these fights, and I like, fuck it. Since I like, when regular fights came on, I always like to do the play-by-play commentary. I'm like, let me start reviewing some of these old fights and do it. But I'm like, I have to start keeping in my memory these old forgotten fighters who had an impact back during their era, and hoping they don't get forgotten. And even coming to the because after that I ended up going to a boxing expo out here, and there's a lot of these older legends who a lot of the young fans walk right by because they don't know who these guys are, because these guys' stories have been put on the back burner of shit. But it's like, it's time that they get pushed to the forefront and become recognized. But yeah, we can go to the, if you got anything, that's all I got on that.
Yeah, I just want to also add, and we just recently mentioned Bobby Chacon on the Three Wise Men of Boxing as being one of the action fighters, and everything. So it's right in line with what you're talking about. We talk about these fighters and the fights and events that they participated in, classic fights, some fights that maybe even when it happened, it might not have been ruled a classic, but when you look upon reflection and the years have gone by and you've seen the different levels of what the quality of the sport has been, it elevates certain fights to the class of being classic, because those men back then just offered something a little bit extra of themselves and took their careers and their accomplishments and their legacies serious. You know what I mean? That's why you even hear them say today, you don't play boxing, right? Well, back then they proved that more than the guys of today. So, yeah, what's the next one you like to roll with, Reggie? We got.
The Mayweather one, was that the Castillo one you had?
Yeah, Mayweather and Castillo one.
Yes, let's roll with that one.
Okay. So here we go. Now, these are mostly highlights like the other, so we get a chance to breeze through it. And if you want to make some comments on them, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to let it play for a quick second, just to get a reflection on it. And this is also a very, very tight fight for Floyd Mayweather. And it was always a fight. I always wondering where people were like, this was like a controversial fight. It's a fight that, many observers say Floyd lost. They didn't think he won this fight. And going back looking at it, it was a really, really tight fight. And when I scored it, I got my brother losing, man. I got my brother Floyd losing this fight. Not based on being beat, but being just outworked by this guy. This guy, it was reminiscent of the pressure that Duran put on Leonard. That's exactly what Floyd was having to deal with in this fight. It was just a very tough, very rugged fight for Floyd going into this one. This guy was just all over him, smothering him a lot, pressuring, but he wasn't really hitting Floyd too much, and that could have been what the judges may have seen, but it was almost at times where Floyd wasn't really firing off too many shots as well. And also Floyd came in speaking about an injury as well, and that could have added to Floyd not really doing too much offensively. But he's known for his accuracy, so he's landing the cleaner of the two shots at moments when he was firing back on this guy. But this guy was all over Floyd. But this guy was also doing a lot of kind of more the roughing up of Floyd, but not really touching Floyd with punches. So that could have been another way that the judges viewed it. But all in all, I had this guy just outworking Floyd, and that's just the way I saw it. And I seen that there was a point deducted from the guy, and I didn't believe in that point deduction. I should have wrote down a note why the point was deducted, but I thought it was a little iffy of a deduction going in here. But either way, I had this guy Castillo beating Floyd. I believe. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 rounds to 5, or how many Floyd? 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 rounds to 4. But I also have a 10-8 round, and I should have wrote a note for that. I'm not sure what happened in round 10, but I ended up giving Castillo a 10-8 round against Floyd. So I don't know if it was a point deduction. I just didn't mark my notes, but I had this guy clearly taking this fight away from Floyd, 114 to 111.
Sharper. Here's a ripping left. Mayweather's so quick.
Are you there? You there, OG?
Yeah, I'm here, just watching. Watching the action.
To make space and get away. Castillo, more and more, just wading in, getting close at any cost. So that
this is also one of the reasons why I say Floyd would not have beat Julio Cesar Chavez. Julio Cesar Chavez was about 10 times better than Castillo. And could take a punch. So Chavez wouldn't be afraid to take a shot from Floyd, and he would sell out. But I think that Chavez would have been able to. I'm seeing the things that Castillo is doing successfully, and Chavez was far better at doing those very same things. He fought with a Chavez-like style, but he couldn't do the things that Chavez could do. Chavez, you see in certain instances where Castillo is in front of Floyd and he's trying to throw a lead right hand, Chavez was so acute at throwing that right hand, it was like a jab. And he could get guys with that shot. They couldn't get away from it. And Floyd had problems with jabs. So it's like I could see Chavez catching him with that particular shot, that lead right hand. The same way that Ali was catching George Foreman with a lead right hand.
Mayweather goes down. Jack Coolidge rules no knockdown. Well, he's got a lot to complain about as Castillo continues to turn this.
Yeah, this is a real tough fight for Floyd, but I don't know, man. I don't know if how much the injury is to account for what happened, but that pressure from Castillo was something else, man. It was really something else. But he also showed he weathered through it. He fought through it. Tried to give an account. He never tried to give up. And early on, he was speaking on the injury, but Castillo fought a very tough fight, and a fight that leaves where people draw a question of what happened with him being an undefeated fighter. And this is the fight right here where people say he should be 49-1 fighter.
Hit him in the side and in the chest. Everything away from you. Right now, hold him and move to the left. He's pushing him out with the ring.
Plus, he hurt so many guys over the years. They couldn't get away from him. He'd hit him on the hips and stuff. Stop the mobility. He was very effective.
Jose Luis Castillo landing 75 power shots to only 30 for Mayweather. Castillo throwing more than twice as many. Mayweather's starting to try to exchange power in the middle of the ring. They caught him with power shots to the body. Knocked him out with 2 seconds too. Castillo's smiler Chavez as Castillo's body shots slow Mayweather down. Another hard right hand to the body. Mayweather working the jab, trying to reestablish tactical command. Mayweather's jab this time. He's managed to make Castillo slow up a little bit.
Are you still there, OG?
Yeah, I'm still here, just watching the action. I can see it on the screen behind me, so just taking it in.
Right hand by Mayweather. Perfect counter shot as Castillo came in.
Trying to make a brawl out of it, which is what he was supposed to do. What do you mean?
And see, this ref is also a ref I can't stand, man. This is a guy he's always known to put himself in the center of the fight, making the fight too much about himself. And I think this is the round where he deducted the point from the guy, and I don't think nothing warned him taking a point from him. As a matter of fact, I think that's how that 10th round ended up being a 10-8 round for Floyd, because he deducted a point from Floyd as well, and I think he was trying to make up for what he did in this round right here.
Las Vegas. If there's a close fight, maybe that could make the difference.
Floyd be throwing elbows too.
Take a point. Take a point.
He's thinking of it, but he didn't do it.
Smart by Mayweather. He came out and met Castillo before he could jump on him. That's smart.
3 rounds of drama upcoming, and Floyd Mayweather so far unbeaten.
If he was running away, taking shots at Castillo, Jose Luis Castillo seemed to slow down, just like he is here. Good straight hands by Mayweather like that.
Right hand over the top by Castillo. Misses with the left uppercut. Goes to the body. Mayweather flicking in.
He's walking right into Mayweather's hook. Mayweather's got an excellent left hook. Just can't walk into it. You got to bob and weave before you go there. Back springs.
That was unbelievable.
Referee's gotten confused there.
Shy about pushing off. Mayweather takes a series of big shots against the rope.
Yeah, and I'm just now seeing the part where he took the point. It was like he was trying to make do a makeup call, and I was like, and just seeing that fight, it was that ref I stand. There's certain refs that I can't stand, because I already know they're about to do something to alter the fight, because they put themselves in there. They make these old threatening type warnings to fighters, to where fighters don't know if they're going to be disqualified. These phones going to be taken, and it throws them off their games. And that's why I don't like a lot of these new age refs that kind of put themselves too much in the fight. I just can't. That's one to do right.
Mayweather's face. Castillo got away with a couple of shots below the belt. Power punches in round 10 by CompuBox numbers. Castillo landed 25 to only 8 for Floyd Jr. To the lightweight class, add another championship. Jose Luis Castillo didn't see it that way.
I think that Castillo is ready if he can get in a straight right hand now. Castillo is much more effective at close quarters, where Mayweather is merely content to block shots.
And Floyd hasn't used his feet effectively with any consistency over the course of the last 6 rounds.
Fighting Castillo's fight because he has to. Well, Mayweather like to get in there and mix it up like that at some point of the fight. He like to stand there and just let the guy shoot. I think that is for a shot. He loves that. That's to his credit. He loves it. Mayweather does. Yeah, that's to his credit. He knows what he has to do, and he's trying to do it right here.
Brilliant flurry by Mayweather there.
This is not instigated by Castillo. This is instigated by Mayweather.
Absolutely, and there's a brilliant left-right combination there. And another combination. And Floyd Mayweather suddenly giving as good as he's getting. Yes, and as Castillo leans on him and leans on him,
Chavez was a far better inside fighter than Castillo. So these are the areas where, like I said, Floyd would not be able to stand in there against Chavez like this.
Body shots by Castillo. Tough round to score. Flurries by both fighters.
Mayweather's not backing up at all. The versatility of Mayweather. He can box and move, and now he is standing and delivering and taking.
You hear the crowd cheering for Castillo.
Yeah, they definitely on Castillo's side.
Whoa! He had a nice uppercut there at the end.
102, 6-4, 1 even Jose Luis Castillo. I think that Floyd Mayweather is just fighting this guy's fight. Jose Luis Castillo, the bigger, harder puncher.
But he got a draw against Stevie Boston. 2 more low blows for Castillo, and both of them effective, and he gets away with it.
Mayweather's leaping in with the strong level.
And I'm listening to Lampley like right at this moment. They're good when they sit quiet and just call what they see inside the ring. The minute they step away from speaking and adding their own bullshit opinions to the game is where they go wrong and F everything up. But he brought a level of excitement when he spoke on the fights. But these dudes cannot get out their own ways to kind of really effing the game up when it came to the way they try to diminish the sport by adding their own biases to the game rather than keeping the camera on it and reporting what you see. Like,
after entering the pro ranks, first one to win a championship, 27-0 coming into today, regarded himself as one of the very top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Did he bite off more than he could chew? Did he underestimate the difficulty of moving up in weight against a tough veteran champion who knew how to come in and make Floyd Mayweather fight his fight? Who will the judges choose in this rousing battle in Las Vegas?
For the winner by unanimous decision, Pretty Boy, Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, that was a fight where, yes, it warranted a rematch. You know, good competitive action fight. But the only thing about Castillo that I would say is he was not able to go to another level. You know, Floyd could fight at levels, and Floyd kind of fought down to his level because there were things that Floyd could have done to make that fight a lot easier for himself, and he displayed that in the rematch. But you have to understand, if that was Julio Cesar Chavez, he doesn't even get out of that fight. That fight doesn't. Floyd don't see the final bell.
damn.
Yeah, because of the things that I could see what Castillo was able to do to him. And Castillo was no Chavez. He fought like that style. It was a great mirror of it, but he did not have the similar attributes that Chavez had. He didn't have the punching power. He didn't have the chin. He didn't have the ability to turn it up. You know, there were moments in fights where Chavez could turn it up against guys. Castillo fought with what he had, and he was valiant. But as we said on the Three Wise Men show about a month back, you know, there's levels to this. You know what I mean? And Floyd was head and shoulders above Castillo, even in this fight. But he showed it even more in the second fight. But there are certain fighters that you don't get to make the mistakes that Floyd was making here and get away. You know what I mean? It's just that's just knowing boxing. But hey, kudos to Floyd for being able to defeat the guys and the guys not being able to raise their level. It's not a knock against him. It's an observation and critiquing what you see and what you know from, you know, having watched bouts. But I don't say what I'm saying to slam Floyd. Floyd was the best of his era. And there were guys that could not match what he brought. There were other guys who may have even been more talented, but they couldn't match what he brought as far as his approach to the fight, his studious mind and IQ of taking what you do not so well and using it against you. I mean, there were a number of things. And coming from a boxing family like he did, that's not really a hard thing to realize when he's got all that experience around him. It's just that he had more talent than that experience around him had, and he was able to go much further than they did. It's as simple as that. So as we talk about this particular fight, what do you have to offer as far as your observations, having called the fight? And this is one of the fights that you called that had some of the highest numbers. You had over 200 views on this one.
Yeah, I think with Floyd's name being attached to it, a lot of people come to watch it. So that's why I always make sure I don't want to do the fights with the most popularity to them. So I already know when Floyd's name is on it, they're going to come to watch it. But the other thing with the fight is just this being a fight in which, to add to it, is one of Floyd's toughest fight outside of the other one that he announces as being his toughest, is which I'm going to do, what is the name? Emmanuel Augustus fight. But this one right here was a fight that, they spoke of for years. Some people use this as well as speaking of Floyd's first loss, unofficial loss. So we got back, we just sat there to study it. But early in the fight, you also hear the announcement of Floyd's injury as well. So that's something to take into account. Like I say, he fought well. He landed the more accurate shots. To me, he just wasn't busy enough. He didn't fire off enough shots. Castillo was busy, constantly throwing out punches. Even if he was swinging at air, he was just letting those hands go and just putting tremendous amount of pressure on Floyd. And but all in all, man, it was, like you said, Floyd could have went up another level. He was that gifted. He fell into fighting this guy's fight as well. And I think that's where, but luckily he had judges that were on his side, but it was way too close to leave it up to the judges.
Yeah. And again, like they said, he had an injury, in that fight. It didn't look like an injury. I mean, he might have some soreness or whatever. If he was really injured, he shouldn't have been fighting. Yeah, but I heard George Foreman say fighters are injured all the time. They fight, That's what they do. So, yeah, he won the fight. He won the fight. So, but was there anything that you noticed when you were calling this fight, Reg, with your viewing audience? Any particular comments that were being made during the chat and stuff as you were calling? Was it like people, I know they came to see Floyd or whatever, but anything that stood out to you?
Nothing really stood out. Sometimes we disagree on who a round may go to, but not too much of anything. And some people who may have thought the fight looked one way, they scored it a different way when they watched this fight. But it was just based on everybody has their own way of observing, and they have their own set of critiques when they go into how to give a fighter what they're evaluating and what they're seeing. But some people were, in disagreement on certain rounds that were won. But for the most part, I think most people agree that they had Castillo winning as well. So that was the only thing that really stood out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the rematch, he pretty much showed his separation in class. And, it was onward and upward for him, as far as boxing. But and people like to see a guy struggle a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like it's just a natural thing. It's like, I live here in the Chi, and when the Chicago Bulls were doing their thing, you had Michael Jordan. When the Bulls would like be behind and Jordan have to keep them in the game and stuff. I'm not talking about when they were in their championship seasons. I'm talking about prior to the championship seasons. People had an admiration for what he was doing because he'd be single-handedly winning games. It's like this dude is out there. He's playing like a 5-man, 1-on-5, but they gave respect to him because even though he was losing, the effort that he would put out, it was like he was freaking Superman, So people like to see somebody struggle. They and then do well and be successful. People don't like when you just are just head and shoulders above everybody and you look so polished and everything, and you can't get dirty and this and that. It's like people kind of get jealous and they start hating on you for that. You know what I mean? It's like Ali. You know, he had the gift of gab and everything, and he could talk. He could talk. 10 miles an hour. But when he got hit by that left hook and went down a couple of times in his career, people cheered. They were like, "Yeah, knock him on his ass." You know what I mean? But when he got up and fought better and even beat the other guy, if not knocked the other guy out, then they were like, "Oh, okay. He's a true champ." What can you say? But I'm still glad he got knocked on his ass, they'll say, But it's like, that's just the nature of people, But, yeah, it is what it is, with these fighters out here like that. I guess we got one more, which is the super fight. You wanna set it up for us before we go ahead and start showing the clips, or how you want to do it?
Yeah. I just want to speak on who the two fighters are, man, and what they've accomplished before going into this fight. And that was like one of the highlights that stood out for me when I called the fight, is the fact that Sugar Ray being a 5-division champion, 3-division lineal champ, undisputed champ, and a gold medalist in 1976. So highly accomplished dude. And he's coming back off of, wasn't he out for 3 years for this one?
Yeah.
I believe he's coming back after 3 years to go into this fight against a reigning dangerous middleweight champion, and that being Hagler, who has reigned over the division as the undisputed champion from 1980 to 1987. And he had the 12 title defenses. So this is what goes into this fight, being a super fight. Other buildups into this fight was Sugar Ray giving up some concessions on money, Hagler accepting that and giving Sugar Ray a decision on choice of gloves as well as the choice on the side of the ring. And Sugar Ray picking that big-ass ring was a great choice, I believe, going into this fight for him. His ability to use his athletic gifts. Sugar Ray was very agile fighter, and that's why I'll be saying when I watch it, I'm like, this dude could have been a hellified running back, a hellified receiver, or whatever the hell he's going to be. He's very fluid inside that ring, and he moved around. He used every square inch of that damn ring, and he had Hagler following him the whole damn night. But yeah, we can go into it if you want to start, all right?
All right. So with no further ado, we will present some highlights from Leonard versus Hagler.
Discombobulate, confuse Hagler, hit him some shots to get his respect and get the crowd on his side, pose himself on Ray and show who's boss. This fight that we all did. Hagler things to think about. Right. Left hook by Hagler. Get out. Right hand by Leonard. That Leonard is the more confident fighter. Again, both corners very calm, very confident. That was a good left hand by Hagler. One to the head and then one to the body. Hagler continues to stalk Ray Leonard. Short right hand by Ray Leonard. And Hagler a good left hand to the head. A good right. Very good right hand by Marvin Hagler. And now Hagler chases Leonard. Hagler being the aggressor, has Leonard on the ropes. Leonard trying to fight his way off the ropes. Hagler hammers him back onto them.
And it's crazy just seeing Leonard trying to exchange power with this guy. Leonard delivered these heavy blows, and due to his abilities in moving out that ring, he got right up out of there. This dude was gifted, man, with brilliant fight.
Standing more. Ray Leonard punching a little more with the arms right at the moment, too. Leonard got the better of that. Leonard fighting flat-footed in this round. Caught Hagler with a left. Hagler catches Leonard with a left of his own.
Hagler's right jab was a shotgun, man.
Wild right hand.
Yeah, once he got Leonard in place to fire it off, yeah, he was delivering some heavy stuff, but Leonard took these shots very well.
Leonard. And Hagler made him pay for that bit of fancy footwork. Right hand by Hagler again. Again, Leonard on the ropes. Damage in that last exchange. So it's pretty simple. Marvelous Bob in Hagler's corner wants Ray Leonard on the ropes. Ray Leonard corner wants Ray Leonard off the ropes. It's a good left hand by Hagler. Hagler's punches, even though they haven't been... Leonard tried to fight off the ropes and does. Come on, work again. That was a good left hand by Hagler. And Leonard now with his back to the ropes. And another left hand by Hagler. And that more than got Leonard's attention. Ray Leonard is hurt in the corner. Leonard's left hand down at his side. Hagler peppering him. Leonard now tries to fight off the ropes. Combinations of punches. And now it's Hagler who backs off. A lot of action here in round 9. Crowd collectively on its feet.
Damn, Sugar Ray Leonard had heart, man.
Oh, hell yeah, he did, man. It's a tough dude, man.
You're just seeing two champions go at each other, neither one giving an inch. From Hagler is astonishing, really. Leonard just took a deep breath and dropped his arms. Now, whether that was a ploy, we'll find out here. 15 seconds left, round 9. Leonard looks tired, but it could be play acting. But what Ray Leonard is doing is giving Marvin Hagler what he wants. A brawl. But again, Leonard on
hey, them combinations he was putting on Hagler, man. God damn.
Yeah, right? Just think, a lesser fighter would have been out of there from that. Hagler was the man.
The final 3 minutes of what has been a great event and a great fight.
I love this sequence right here where Leonard fought off the ropes.
Off the ropes. Leonard fighting off the ropes.
Yeah, I think that's what I was when I seen the comment while I was making that comment, like see him firing off and throw that flurry, and it kind of it stunned Hagler, not from a standpoint of being hurt, but feeling all those punches tagging him everywhere.
Right.
How do you like it?
115, 113. By the winner, by a split decision, and new middleweight champion of the world, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Wow, man. Just, just watching it in highlights, it kind of give you a little charge, doesn't it?
Oh, hell yeah, it does. Absolutely. I'm over here glued to it. And that was the other thing. With this fight, wasn't there an option for this to be a 15-round fight, or did they stop 15-rounders back then?
No,
I'm not sure.
The option was there on the table, and Leonard didn't want 15. Hagler did, though. So,
okay,
Hagler conceded that.
Oh, so maybe that was part of the concessions of Ali. I mean, keep calling him Ali, but Leonard giving up some of the money, because maybe that was part of that concession. So the ring size, glove, and making it a 12-round fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, this was a split decision. It wasn't like they gave Leonard, a unanimous. It was a split. So we could have did a rematch, but it wasn't to be. But what a damn fight. I mean, Leonard, Kurt Sugar and I have spoke about this about him. Ray Leonard was special, man. People were jealous of him and, felt a certain way about him because he was like the guy with the golden smile and everything, and the ladies liked him and all of that. But the dude could fight, man. He could freaking fight. It wasn't like he was like, a pretty boy. No, Ray Leonard would knock you out. And he had a toughness inside of him where, there were moments in fights that he had with people. He would grit his teeth and go after you like you had took something from his mama or something. And that's what you have to have as a fighter. As great and athletically talented a boxer Michael Nunn had the potential to be, he didn't have that meanness in him that Sugar Ray Leonard had. If he had that in him, he would not have lost to James Toney. But it's just, and that's not a knock. It's like you only have what has been put in you by the creator or whatever. It's just an observation, because Leonard was underestimated, in that regard. Yeah, they knew he could box. Yeah, they knew he had fast hands and everything. He had great mobility. He could move and evade punches. But at the end of the day, the man was a hell of a fighter, bro. A hell of a fighter.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, man. He was bad, man, just to see a guy that gifted. Like, because, as a matter of fact, you were doing the show about the bicycle. And it was not where you're using it where you're running away from a fighter, but using it to change where you're at in the ring, opening distance, buying yourself time if you're hurt, using it in that sense of things. But he used everything effectively to have great feet. Footwork is a crucial aspect within boxing. Having great footwork along with hand speed the way he had, and the ability to take punches, the ability to think inside that ring, it just added to the creation of a brilliant fighter, and that's why he's so accomplished. Gold medalist, all these other accolades in the sports, and he was that well versed within the game. And who knows, maybe he could have went further if he didn't have what he came up with some injuries as well. I believe, right, with the eye and all that stuff.
Yeah, the detached retina. And then he just, there were moments in his career where, he retired after the Olympics when he came out the Olympics. So he officially retired like 4 or 5 times, but the 3-year layoff with Hagler, the fight with the comeback fight where he had Ayub Kalule, and then he decided at the press conference, I don't think I have it no more. I'm just going to go away. Even though he won the fight, he was like, I'm going to retire. This is it. I'm retiring. It's like Ray was, you know what it was? He had so much ability, man, and so much God-gifted talent and everything that he was just special in that way. It's like he retired several times. Ali had his license taken from him, and he was forced into exile for 3 years. With Leonard, it was a choice. And it's like, could you imagine what he could have accomplished had he just stuck to the sport and not retired? The detached retina situation was one thing to understand that at that time, medicine was just coming into this thing where they could actually repair detached retinas and stuff. So the future was uncertain. But when you look at when he got past that, there were so many people at the weight class that he could compete against, and whether they were young and upcomers like Marlon Starling or what's his name, Donald Curry and those guys, or whether it was his contemporaries who were there and the Mike McCallums and stuff like that. There was always someone there that he could deal with, but he was like Mike Tyson. He was larger than the sport at that time during his career. He was so much larger than the sport. Oscar De La Hoya wishes that he had Ray Leonard's popularity, Ray Leonard's shine during the career that he had. I'll tell you something. I'll watch a Sugar Ray Leonard fight over a lot of guys, but I know that when you watch him, regardless of people call him pretty boy, whatever, he didn't play boxing. When that bell rang, he was an assassin. He looked to knock your head off, but he just looked beautiful doing it. You know what I mean? It's like he was that damn good. And he doesn't, even though Sugar Ray got a lot of respect during his career back then, if you look at everything that's come down the pipe since, or what came down the pipe before, that man is in a special class. Kurt Sugar and I had a discussion about it. He'd be hard-pressed, as well as I, if he fought this great man that's behind me on this photo here, Sugar Ray Robinson, his namesake, Sugar. If he fought that guy, be hard-pressed to pick a winner. Seriously. Because Ray could elevate. He could go to another level. And I'm talking about Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray was just damn sweet as sugar, But it would take someone like Sugar Ray Leonard to bring the best out of him. They both had something, man. They special fighters, dynamic fighters they were. Man, nobody, and when people talk about Floyd could hang with Sugar Ray Leonard, nah, bro, no. If you see what Sugar Ray Leonard did to his father, and knowing that Floyd is a better fighter, Sugar Ray would take it to another level. It's as simple as that. The man came off of a 3-year layoff and beat the best middleweight in the world at the time, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. That is nothing to sneeze at. Hagler left bodies in his trail, in his wake.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Just seeing a guy who, some people play the test of looking at a person and judging whether or not how tough they are by what they see.
Yep.
And sometimes people do that, step in the midst of starting shit with
exactly. Especially in boxing, Reggie. Especially in the sport of boxing. You look at certain guys, man. Like look at Tommy Hearns. Who the hell think a guy like that can knock out a damn heavyweight with his right hand? And we're talking about when Hearns was 147 pounds and skinny as a rail. Looked like a praying mantis in there with them little skinny, long-ass legs and skinny arms.
Right.
I mean, he had broad shoulders. He had those broad, rounded shoulders, and you have to figure that power was coming from there somewhere, possibly, or whatever. Similar like to Deontay Wilder. Deontay is skinny as a rail, but he's got those broad, rounded shoulders, too, just like Tommy Hearns. And we know what his right hand can do to people. So it's like there's something in the damn makeup of those guys genetically, you know. But yeah, man. Hey, Reggie, go ahead and give us some final thoughts, man, on this. This has been a great show. I like the technical aspect that we were able to show these clips and everything. And, you know, it was all about the fights that you've called and everything. So it's a little bit of a promotion for you and everything. But I really enjoyed this, man. This was a great Friday night chop session, bro.
Oh, absolutely, man. I enjoy this, man. I really did enjoy this, man. And given the a back end review of these fights, man, and it was cool, man. I really enjoyed that, man. I also want to ask before we got out of here, when you were saying Sugar Ray being bigger than the sport of boxing during the time, being a big time celebrity, a lot of fame, and I've always viewed that when it comes to athletes is sometimes the biggest detriment to their career is fame along with the money. How well did he handle that?
Oh, he handled it about as well as one could. Probably he was like the smaller version of Ali, you know, and quiet as it's kept, a lot of people don't realize that Ali had a affectionate nickname for Sugar Ray, because he actually considered Ray his shrunken down mini me, you know, because he had flair, he had style. You know, Ray wasn't gift of gab. He didn't talk crap, but he had that same type of charisma and allure that drew people to him like they did to Ali. Plus, he could fight like a shrunken down Ali. He could dance around the ring, and he could throw the fast combinations. He had a hell of a left hook, you know. And he was a handsome dude. So it's like all of that was going. So Ali's affectionate nickname for him was the little fucker. Okay. Now in public, they refer to it, they say little fella. But that was Ali's name for Ray Leonard, the little fucker, you know, because it let's just say it went beyond literal and what you could imagine it mean and everything. It was all inclusive. And we could also say that, you know, Ray was a ladies' man. So it went there. Okay. So, but yeah, that's a little bit of a tidbit of trivia for that, you know.
Right on. But man, once again, man, I enjoyed this boxing talk as always, man. This is a great show, man. I appreciate it as always. To the chat, salute to everybody out there. And man, I'll catch you guys again next Friday, man.
Yes, sir, man. What a show, man. It's like, and I think that the way we even went about it this go round was kind of excellent, because we did it. It was a little bit different. Would you agree? It was a little bit different.
Yeah, but it flowed. It flowed. I enjoyed the hell out of it, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've got guys out there in the chat that were making some final comments. Bruce Gold said that Hagler never accepted this loss to this day. Curtis Anderson says, I told people Leonard was going to win. Sir Ken is out there. He says salute, and salute to the wrenches, and salute to the chats. Smash the like button. Thank you for that, bro. Bruce Gold says Kevin Howard retired him, not Kalule. Okay. Curtis Anderson said Leonard was a crossover superstar, and dictated the sport. Bruce Gold says Kalule was his warm up for Hearns. Curtis Anderson says Robinson versus Leonard is my all-time dream fight. And Bruce Gold says Hearns wasn't a KO'er in the amateurs. Stewart made him a killer. Bruce Gold says peace. And so does GG. And Curtis Anderson says great show. Thank you. Coming from Kurt Sugar, that's respect. My brother and partner from the Three Wise Men hanging out there with us. We want to say thank you to everybody that joined us for this evening's show, man. It was a lot of fun. It was a little bit something different for the chop session, but at the same time, I think it was very entertaining, and it held the interest of everybody involved. And if you guys want to see more shows like this, where Stormybman doesn't mind, opening up the platform so we can do different things like this and have the brothers on here. But Reggie is always a part of the chop session, just so you guys know. He rolls with me every Friday. But we just wanted to put something out there a little bit different this evening. And I think it was very successful. We had a nice chat. We had nice conversation from the chat and participation. We love doing that, bringing this content to you guys. And we just want to keep on doing it. We want to keep on making it a good thing. So I want to say salute to everybody that joined us. We hope that you come back next Friday, but tomorrow 10 a.m. Central, we got another In the Eye of the Storm with me, and I'm going to have Drew Titan, Bronx on Deck, as the guest tomorrow morning 10 a.m. Central. So don't forget to tune in to that. Brother Drew is going to come on there and talk about his platform and what's going down on there. So we look forward to that, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. And smash the like button on the way out if you hadn't done it during the show. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Please don't forget. Tell people about the Stormybman channel. Share my video. Don't mind. Put it out there. Put it on social media and let people know that there's some good boxing talk going down over here, man. That's what it's all about. We're going to say peace to everybody. Have a good night. Reggie, if you can hold on for a moment, don't disappear on me. Want to talk to you for a minute. And everybody have a good weekend. Peace.